Marvel has a proud history of comics that are tie-ins to toys, be they more well-known like their Transformers comics, or obscure gems like Micronauts and ROM Space Knight. During the 80s, Marvel never shied away from the chance to make a comic about toys. But not all such comics were quite as well thought of. Take, for example, Tyco's line of electronic trucks. That's pretty much all there is to say, a bunch of slot racer trucks. But then Tyco approached Marvel to do a tie-in comic for their trucks, even though the trucks don't have a story. I mean, the Transformers concept was simple and goofy, but at least it made sense. Two races of robots waging war and hiding on Earth in disguise. At what point in the writing process did they go from slot car racers to a truck-driving superhero? Hopefully we'll find out, so let's dig into US-1 number 1. The cover certainly fares better than a lot of the schlock featured here. It has a very theatrical feel to it, with the winds and rain storming around, as well as our trucking protagonist striking an heroic pose. There's a sense of both mystery and tragedy behind the chrome-domed head here, and of course we'll see none of that in the actual hero. To finish it off, there's a silhouetted villain atop a cliff with his arms in the air, as if he's responsible for the truck below him hurtling over the edge of the cliff. This cover does have two particular failures, though. First, that logo is huge! It takes up almost a third of the cover, taking away room for anything else the artist could have included. Second, this tagline, "High Adventure Trucking Down the Highway." I love how they give trucking its own huge font, trying to make the idea of sitting in a truck and driving for days more exciting than it actually is. High Adventure Trucking Down the Highway, and High Adventure Plummeting to Your Doom. The book opens on an open stretch of freeway without any life featured. What a perfect metaphor for this book! All of a sudden, a cargo truck zooms past a sign that reads US-1. So the book's actually about the freeway? Real stories of the deserted freeway. Hours of non-stop nothing. Racing past the sign, the man driving the truck waves out the window and shouting the title of the first issue, US-1 coming at ya! You know, I don't know much about trucker handles, but it seems kind of stupid to name yourself after a freeway and to even paint your truck so that it resembles the sign. As a superhero name, it makes even less sense. Did you get bitten by a radioactive freeway sign? Turning the page, we're introduced to our narrator. Oh dear Lord, please kill me now. The only thing more annoying than a pretentious, melodramatic narrator is an actual character who tells the story. Said narrator, a beefy, cigar-smoking, overalls and salmon-colored t-shirt wearing trucker, introduces himself. Hi there, I'm Ed Wheeler. Oh, so that's what happened to Wheeler from Captain Planet. Maybe you know me better as Papa Wheelie. So, what, did he make his 18-wheeler stand upright? No wonder he's doing narration for a job now. That's the name they hung on me when I was tearing up the quarter mile, drag racing at tracks all over the country some years back. I was sort of a hero to some people back then. Drag racing, the noblest of professions! But these days, a lot of people seem to think that the only heroes are folks who dress up in tights and wear a cape. Well, that's not all there is to it. Yeah, these days, heroes have to make deals with the devil. Take the young fella driving that truck, for instance. Why, just last week he foiled 2 of Dr. Doom's plans before angsting about his girlfriend. He talks about the guy in the truck, whose name is Ulysses Solomon Archer, US for short. Get it? He goes on to say that he's pretty impressive just for going behind the wheel of that specific truck, but he says he'll explain that later. You see, the thing is that for US, the wheels of fate have always been just that. Wheels. The problem is they're made by Firestone. Wheeler explains that US was always motivated by his desire to drive trucks. Even back when he and his older brother, Jefferson Hercules, used to stand alongside the highway and watch the big rigs rumble on by. Hang on, Jefferson Hercules? Ulysses Solomon? Who the heck is naming these kids? Plutarch? After a brief scene where we meet US's trucker parents, said parents get killed off panel. Well, thanks for letting us acclimate to those characters before they're lost. Anyway, after the loss of such legendary truckers as, whoever US's parents were supposed to be, their fellow truckers dress up their vehicles in black and drive the longest funeral convoy Wheeler had ever seen. Pardon me for being insensitive, but don't any of these truckers have hauling jobs they're supposed to be doing? Wheeler and his wife adopt the 2 mythically named children, and he comments, "The wheels of fate spun by for a few uneventful years." By the way, this is the 3rd time this guy has brought up the wheels of fate. Apparently he's not a hero around these parts for his rich knowledge of metaphors. And one of our boys grew into a man. The other one grew into a woman. We're still trying to figure that one out. Jefferson Hercules became a truck driver himself, while US is irritated that he isn't allowed to do the same. Wheeler explains to him that with Jeff driving a rig, US can go to college as their parents had wanted. Now, get this. He graduates magna cum laude, he was the quarterback for the football team, and according to Wheeler had degrees in computer program design, electronic engineering, all kinds of things. Let me get this straight. In addition to being the top position on a football team, as well as meeting usually very stringent grade or project requirements necessary for magna cum laude, he has at least 2 computer science degrees? It's hard enough to try double majoring, but Wheeler implies that he got more degrees. Either US is a friggin' cheater, or this school has the most lax educational standards I've ever seen. But apparently being the greatest human being alive isn't enough for US. He still had that love of the road, couldn't wait to join up with his brother and be a gypsy trucker. Who knew the Roma had so many truckers? All that speed and power wrapped in tons of steel riding underneath you. Dear Lord, it sounds like he's talking about an adult toy. Just thinking about it gives me a chill. Yeah, thinking of you and such an object certainly gives me chills. But nothing like the chill I get when I think of that night. The night of the accident. Ew, truck accidents turn him on? The headlights pushed at the wall of rain, but couldn't break through. Well, in that case, you should just... The wheels whined, sounding more like the wheels of some dark fight than the wheels of any semi. Wheeler, maybe you should stop with the whole... The wipers beat a fast fiddle tempo in counterpoint to the steady drumbeat of the rain. The narrator wouldn't shut his freaking mouth and get on with the story. Honestly, it'd sound more natural if Brian Michael Bendis tried to recite Howl in his narrative captions. Anyway, the 2 brothers are driving around in the melodramatic storm. The 2 are having yet another pointless argument about US wanting to drive trucks. This is like the 3rd argument in a row. When did this guy find time to earn those computer degrees if all he can think of is trucks? A black semi suddenly appears and starts running them off the road. Spotting the silhouette of its driver, Jeff gasps and exclaims, "It's the highway van!" Damn you, R.A. Salvatore! What did truckers ever do to you? Jeff, in his panic, has become a tower of sweat, and the highwayman forces the truck off the road. To the shock and horror of us all, Wheeler starts talking about it some more. Their semi lurched out into space, seemed to hang suspended for a small eternity, framed by lightning. Speaking of eternity, then the huge vehicle plummeted to the bottom of the cliff. Why do we have narration that's describing exactly what's happening in the panel? Did they think the readers had no concept in their simple little comic book reading brains what a truck falling to its doom looks like? US has got to be the luckiest protagonist of all time since he's thrown clear of the wreckage. Speaking of which, the wreckage is now ablaze. I guess they shouldn't have been hauling that shipment of oily rags and gunpowder. US is too injured to climb into the wreck to find his brother. Well, he's holding his head but has no other visible injuries to speak of, but is coherent enough to speak clearly about it.